Emily Vale never imagined that a mistakenly sent text message would lead her to confront New York's most dangerous crime boss, Lucien Moretti. In less than 10 minutes, armored SUVs surrounded her apartment like a military raid. Lucien emerged from the shadows with cold eyes and an authoritative voice. "Get in." Now Emily's name was in the hands of his enemy, and in Lucien Moretti's world, the innocent never live long. Follow this story to the end. Like and comment with the name of the city you're watching to let me know how far the story has progressed. The phone screen lit up Emily's tear-streaked face in the darkness of her bedroom. Her hand shook so badly she had to retype the message 3 times before hitting send. The words burned with rage she'd been swallowing for months. "I know what you did. I know where you were. Don't ever contact me again, you lying piece of shit." She threw the phone across the room the second it left her fingertips, heard it clatter against the wall. Didn't care. Her chest heaved with sobs she'd been holding back since walking into that restaurant 2 hours ago and seeing Marcus with his tongue down another woman's throat. The same Marcus who'd texted her that morning about being stuck in meetings all evening. The same Marcus she'd wasted 3 years trying to fix. The crying lasted maybe 10 minutes before exhaustion took over. Emily sat on the edge of her bed in her small Greenpoint apartment, mascara ruined, dress wrinkled, feeling hollowed out and stupid. 28 years old and still picking the wrong men, still believing the lies, still thinking this time would be different. Her phone buzzed from where it landed near the closet door. She ignored it. It buzzed again and again. "Go to hell, Marcus," she muttered, but something made her get up and retrieve it anyway. Maybe she wanted another fight. Maybe she needed to scream at him one more time to make it feel real. The screen showed 3 missed calls from a number she didn't recognize. Her stomach dropped. The 4th call came through while she stared at it. Unknown number, New York area code. Emily's thumb hovered over the decline button, but curiosity, or maybe just the lingering adrenaline, made her answer. "Hello?" Silence on the other end. Not empty silence, the kind filled with presence. Someone breathing, someone listening. "Hello?" she repeated, sharper this time. A man's voice came through, low and precise. "Who is this?" Not a question, a command. Emily's fingers tightened on the phone. "I think you have the wrong number." "You texted this line 4 minutes ago." The voice carried weight that made her skin prickle. "I'll ask one more time. Who is this?" Her mind scrambled through the fog of anger and whine. She'd sent that message to Marcus. She'd triple-checked the contact before hitting send, hadn't she? There must be a mistake. I was trying to reach someone else." "Your name." The authority in those 2 words made her answer before thinking. Emily Vale? Look, I'm sorry if I bothered you. I was just... Stay where you are." The line went dead. Emily stared at her phone like it had just bitten her. What the hell kind of response was that? Stay where you are? Who talks like that? She pulled up her sent messages with fingers that suddenly felt clumsy. The text she'd fired off in rage sat there at the top of the thread. But it wasn't Marcus's contact name above it. It was a number she'd never seen before. Her breath caught. She must have been crying so hard, typing so fast, that she'd grabbed the wrong contact. But whose number was this? She didn't recognize it, didn't remember saving it. Emily told herself to calm down. It was just a wrong number. People got weird messages all the time. This was New York. Probably some businessman annoyed at being bothered. Stay where you are probably meant stay off my phone line, not actual... The sound of cars outside her window made her look up. Multiple engines. Close. She lived on a quiet residential street in Greenpoint where people actually complained about the ice cream truck being too loud. The only traffic after midnight was usually delivery drivers or couples arguing their way home from the bars. This sounded different. Emily walked to her window and pulled back the curtain. 3 black SUVs sat parked in front of her building. Not double parked, not running, deliberately positioned like pieces on a chessboard. All of them armored. All of them spotless despite the wet streets. The kind of vehicles that looked like they could drive through a brick wall and come out shining. Her heart started hammering against her ribs. A 4th SUV turned onto the street, moving with the slow precision of a shark. It stopped in the middle of the intersection, blocking the only exit from the block. Doors opened. Men stepped out. 4, 6, 8. She lost count. All of them wore dark suits that fit too perfectly to be off the rack. All of them moved with the synchronized efficiency of people trained to hurt others professionally. Emily's hands went numb. This wasn't possible. This didn't happen. Not in real life. Not from a wrong number text message. She lived in a third-floor walk-up with a landlord who ignored the leaking ceiling. She worked in marketing for a nonprofit that couldn't afford decent coffee. She was nobody. She was invisible. The men didn't look like they cared about any of that. 2 of them took positions at the corners of her building. 2 more walked to the front entrance. The rest fanned out across the street with the casual confidence of people who knew no one would stop them. Across the street, Mrs. Chen's curtains moved. Old Mr. Petrov's lights went dark. Everyone with sense was hiding. Emily should hide too. Instead, she stood frozen at the window, watching the last SUV's back door open. A man stepped out, even from 3 floors up. Even through the streetlight haze in her own panic, she could see he was different from the others. Taller, maybe. Or maybe it was just the way he carried himself, like gravity bent around him instead of the other way around. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than her yearly rent. Dark hair, sharp features, the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers or wanted posters. He looked up, directly at her window. Emily jerked back from the curtain, heart trying to punch through her chest. She'd been seen. He knew which apartment. How? How did he know? Her phone, they'd traced it somehow. While she'd been standing there like an idiot, they'd pinpointed her exact location. She grabbed her keys from the dresser. Wallet, jacket. Her brain screamed at her to run, but where? The fire escape led down to an alley these men probably already had covered. The roof access was locked. The only exit was the front door they were currently walking through. A knock came from her apartment door. 3 measured strikes that somehow sounded more threatening than any pounding could. Emily's hand shook so badly she dropped her keys. She bent to pick them up and realized how stupid that was. Keys wouldn't save her. Running wouldn't save her. Whatever she'd stumbled into by sending that message was already standing in her hallway. The knock came again. She walked to the door on legs that felt disconnected from her body. Her hand touched the deadbolt. Her own voice sounded distant when she spoke. "Who is it?" "You know who?" That same voice from the phone. Low, precise, heavy with the kind of authority that didn't need to threaten. Emily's forehead touched the door. She wanted to cry, wanted to scream, wanted to rewind 3 hours and never answer Marcus's text in the first place, never send that message, never touch her phone. "What do you want?" Silence for a moment, then, "Open the door, Miss Vale." He knew her name, full name. She hadn't given him her last name on the phone. "I called the police," she lied. "No, you didn't." Her blood turned cold. Had they tapped her phone that fast? Were they listening right now? "The police are on their way," she tried again, voice cracking. "Emily." The way he said her first name made her flinch. Not cruel, not mocking, almost patient. "I'm here to help you, but I can't do that through a door. And we're running out of time." "Time for what?" "For me to explain why 4 different crews are currently trying to figure out who texted my private emergency line tonight. Open the door. Now." The last word carried enough weight to make her fingers move on their own. She flipped the deadbolt, turned the handle, pulled the door open 6 inches, and immediately wanted to slam it shut again. The man from the phone stood in her hallway looking like violence wrapped in expensive fabric. Up close, he was younger than she'd expected, maybe mid-30s, with dark eyes that absorbed light instead of reflecting it. A thin scar cut through his left eyebrow. His jaw looked carved from stone. Everything about him screamed danger except for his hands, which hung loose at his sides. Not threatening, just ready. Behind him stood 2 more men built like bulldozers in suits. "Miss Vale," the man said, "my name is Lucien Moretti. You texted my number 93 minutes ago. Since then, that message has been flagged by 3 different monitoring systems belonging to people who would very much like to know who has access to my private communications." He paused. "Do you understand what I'm telling you?" Emily's voice came out as a whisper. "No." "Then let me be clearer." He took 1 step forward, not into her apartment, just close enough that she could smell expensive cologne mixed with something darker. Gunpowder, maybe. Or just fear radiating off her own skin. Right now, several extremely dangerous people think you're either someone I care about, someone trying to hurt me, or someone who knows things they'd kill to learn. In about 20 minutes, one of those people will make a decision about which category you fall into. And Miss Vale? His eyes locked onto hers. None of those categories end well for you. Well, but it. Her knees felt weak. This is insane. I sent a message meant for my ex-boyfriend. It was a mistake. A mistake that put you in the crosshairs of the Bratva, the DeLuca family, and at least 2 independent operators who specialize in leverage. He said it like reading a grocery list. Your name is already circulating. Your address will follow shortly. You have 2 options. Come with me right now, or stay here and see which crew arrives first. Emily's laugh came out brittle and sharp. You want me to just get in a car with you? A complete stranger who showed up with an army? Yes? That's insane. That's practical. He tilted his head slightly. You're thinking about running. Don't. You're thinking about calling for help. Can't. You're thinking this has to be some kind of joke or misunderstanding. It's not. He checked his watch, something sleek and Swiss that probably cost more than her car. 18 minutes now. Choose. Choose what? Between getting killed by them or getting killed by you? Something flickered across his face. Not quite a smile. Not quite offense. If I wanted you dead, Miss Vale, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We'd be having an autopsy. He straightened. I'm offering you protection. Temporary, necessary, not negotiable. Not negotiable? You can't just... Yes, I can. The words landed like stones. Because in about 16 minutes, Anton Volkov's crew will kick in your door looking for answers. They'll tear this place apart. They'll tear you apart. And when they don't find what they're looking for, they'll take you somewhere worse. His voice dropped. I've seen what happens to innocent people who stumble into situations like this. You don't want to see it from the inside. Emily's hands were shaking again. Her whole body was shaking. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. She paid her taxes. She donated to animal shelters. She'd never even gotten a speeding ticket. Why are you helping me? Lucien studied her for a long moment. Because despite what you might think, I don't enjoy watching civilians get caught in the crossfire. He stepped back. But my generosity has limits, and my patience has an expiration date. 14 minutes. One of the men behind him shifted. Emily caught a glimpse of shoulder holster, gun grip, and her decision made itself. I need to grab my... No time. What you're wearing is fine. Phone, wallet, keys, nothing else. She stared at him. 13 minutes, Miss Vale. Emily grabbed her phone from where it sat on the small table by the door. Wallet from her purse. Keys she was still somehow holding. She didn't look back at her apartment. Couldn't. If she looked back, she might think about what she was leaving. Might think about how crazy this was. Might think herself into staying. Lucien moved aside to let her pass. One of the men immediately took position behind her, not touching, just close enough to make running impossible. They walked down 3 flights of stairs in silence. Emily's footsteps echoed. The men's didn't. They moved like shadows with heartbeats. The front door opened to more men. More SUVs. More impossible reality pressing down on her from all sides. Neighbors watched from darkened windows. Someone would call the police eventually. Someone would see this and wonder. But no one would help. Lucien walked to the center SUV and opened the back door himself, gestured for her to get in. Emily hesitated at the threshold between her old life and whatever nightmare this was becoming. I didn't do anything wrong, she said. I know. For the first time, something almost sympathetic crossed his face. But in my world, Miss Vale, innocence isn't protection, it's liability. He nodded toward the car. Get in. She got in. The door closed with the heavy thunk of armor and finality. Leather seats. Tinted windows so dark the streetlights looked like distant stars. A partition separated the back from the front, where another suited man sat behind the wheel. Lucien slid in beside her. The SUV started moving before her seatbelt clicked. Emily watched her building disappear through the back window, watched her street vanish, watched the only life she'd known fade into the distance like smoke. Where are we going? Somewhere we can talk. Lucien's voice was different now, quieter, less commanding, like the performance he'd put on in her hallway had been exactly that. A performance. Somewhere safe. Safe. The word tasted wrong in her mouth. You keep using that word. Because despite how this looks, you're safer with me than anywhere else right now. Emily turned to look at him. Really look at him. In the dim light of the moving vehicle, he looked less like a movie villain and more like a man. Tired, maybe. Carrying weight that didn't come from muscles. Who are you really? I told you, Lucien Moretti. That's supposed to mean something to me? His lips twitched. Probably better if it doesn't. They drove in silence for several blocks. Emily's phone buzzed in her hand. Text from Marcus. Babe, where are you? We need to talk. She wanted to laugh. Or scream. Marcus seemed like something from another lifetime now. Another dimension. How could she explain that his infidelity had become the least of her problems in the span of 2 hours? Don't respond to that, Lucien said without looking at her. How do you... Your face. You looked annoyed. Only exes make people look that annoyed. He glanced at her phone. Also, I can see the preview text. Emily locked the screen and shoved it in her pocket. Where are you really taking me? I have a restaurant in Tribeca. We own the building. Private. Secure. We can talk there without interruption. Your restaurant. One of several. What do you do exactly? Besides showing up at strangers' apartments with small armies? Lucien looked out his window. I manage problems. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting tonight. The SUV turned onto the FDR Drive, heading south. Manhattan's skyline glittered to their left like broken promises. Emily had lived in this city for 6 years and suddenly felt like she didn't know it at all. The people you mentioned, she said, the ones looking for me. What do they want? Information, leverage, proof of connection. He shifted to face her. My private emergency line is exactly that. Emergency. Only 5 people have that number. My closest circle. The fact that you somehow sent a message to it suggests either a security breach, a new threat vector, or a personal connection they don't know about. His eyes held hers. They'll investigate all 3 possibilities. Violently. But it was an accident. Doesn't matter. Intent is irrelevant. Actions are everything. Emily's head was spinning. So what? What? What happens now? Now we construct a narrative they'll believe. Lucien's voice took on that commanding edge again. One that explains your access without revealing weakness. One that protects you and maintains my position. What kind of narrative? He was quiet for a long moment. Long enough that Emily's imagination started filling in terrible blanks. Hostage, informant, witness they'd need to silence. The kind that requires your cooperation, he finally said. And your trust. My trust? I don't even know you. No, but in about... He checked his watch again. 6 hours. You're going to need to convince some very dangerous people that you do. Intimately. Emily's blood turned to ice water. What? The SUV took an exit. Tribeca's streets rolled past. Empty warehouses transformed into million-dollar lofts. Galleries closed for the night. The city's bones showing through its expensive skin. There's only one explanation that makes sense to everyone watching, Lucien said quietly. Only one story that answers why you'd have that number without triggering an internal war. He looked at her. You're going to be my girlfriend. The words hung in the air between them like smoke. You're what? Temporary. Convincing. Public enough to satisfy curiosity, but private enough to explain the discretion. His voice stayed level. Professional. Like he was discussing a business merger. You'll stay under my protection. We'll be seen together, photographed together. And when enough time passes and the interest dies down, we'll stage a quiet breakup. You'll return to your life, I'll return to mine. Emily couldn't breathe. You're insane. I'm practical. There's a difference. I'm not going to pretend to be your... The alternative is I drop you off at the nearest police station with a fascinating story they won't believe and protection they can't provide. He said it matter-of-factly. Within 48 hours, you'll be dead. They'll make it look like an accident. Maybe a mugging. Maybe you fell onto subway tracks. Maybe you just disappeared like thousands of people do in this city every year. His eyes never left hers. Your choice. The SUV pulled up in front of a restaurant with blacked-out windows and a discreet sign in brushed steel. No lights inside, no people visible. Emily's throat felt tight. This is kidnapping. This is survival. Lucien opened his door. 5 minutes, Miss Vale. That's how long you have to decide whether you want to live through tonight. He got out. Emily sat in the leather seat, feeling her heartbeat echo in her skull. Through the tinted windows, she could see more men taking positions around the building, could see the city continuing like nothing was wrong, like her entire world hadn't just fractured into something unrecognizable. Her phone buzzed again. Marcus. Seriously, where are you? I can explain about tonight. She looked at the message, looked at the restaurant, looked at the door Lucien had left open. 5 minutes. 4 different crews hunting for her. A stranger offering protection wrapped in a lie she'd have to live. Or the police, the streets, and a death that would look accidental. Emily took a breath that hurt going down. Then she stepped out of the car into Lucien Moretti's world, and whatever was left of Emily Vale's normal life died quietly in a Tribeca side street while the city sparkled on without noticing. The restaurant door closed behind her with a sound like a tomb sealing shut. The restaurant smelled like money and emptiness. Candles flickered on tables set for guests who would never arrive. White tablecloths, crystal glasses catching light like trapped stars, the kind of place where a single meal cost more than Emily's weekly grocery budget. Lucien walked through it like he owned the air itself. 2 men flanked the entrance after Emily stepped inside. She heard locks engaging, multiple locks, the kind that said nobody gets in and nobody gets out. This way. Lucien led her past the main dining room into a private area separated by frosted glass panels. A single table sat in the center beneath a chandelier that probably weighed more than her car. 2 place settings. Wine already breathing in a decanter that looked older than her grandparents. He pulled out a chair. Emily stood there staring at it like it might bite. Sit, Miss Vale. We have things to discuss. Don't call me that. Her voice came out sharper than intended. Don't call me Miss Vale like this is some kind of business meeting. What should I call you? Nothing. I don't want you to call me anything. I want to wake up and realize this is a nightmare. Lucien's expression didn't change. Sit down, Emily. The way he said her name made something in her chest tighten. Not threatening, worse than threatening, familiar, like he'd already claimed ownership of it. She sat. He poured wine into her glass. Red. Dark as blood in the candlelight. I don't drink, she lied. Tonight you do. He poured his own glass and sat across from her. You're going to need it. Emily's hand stayed flat on the table. I'm not pretending to be your girlfriend. Yes, you are. You can't force me. I'm not forcing anything. I'm presenting options and letting you choose the one that keeps you alive. He took a sip of wine. Calm. Measured. Like they were discussing weather. But let's be clear about something. This isn't a negotiation. This is me explaining reality and you deciding how to navigate it. That's forcing. That's survival. Emily's fingernails dug into her palms. There has to be another way. There isn't. You could just tell people the truth, that it was a wrong number, an accident. Lucien set down his glass. And who would believe that? A random woman accidentally texts my private emergency line on the same night 3 different intelligence networks detect unusual activity around my operations? The same night Anton Volkov's nephew gets arrested in Brooklyn? He leaned forward. Coincidences don't exist in my world, Emily. Only patterns. And right now you look like a pattern they need to understand. Then explain it to them. Tell them what? That I'm sloppy enough to let a stranger access my communications? That my security is compromised? His voice stayed quiet, but gained an edge that made her flinch. That shows weakness. Weakness invites violence, and violence spreads like disease in my world. Emily grabbed the wine glass and drank half of it in one swallow. It burned going down. Good. She needed the burn, needed something to ground her in this insane reality. How long? Minimum 3 months, possibly 6, depending on how quickly interest fades. 3 months. She wanted to laugh, wanted to scream. You want me to pretend to be in love with you for 3 months? Not love. Association. There's a difference. He refilled her glass. We'll be seen together at public events, restaurants, galleries, places where my world intersects with the legitimate one. You'll stay at my residence under guard. We'll establish a pattern of behavior that satisfies curiosity without revealing too much. Your residence? Emily's voice came out flat. You mean I can't even go home? Your apartment is already compromised. By morning, there will be surveillance on it. Maybe worse. He said it like commenting on the weather. Everything you need will be provided. Clothes, privacy, protection. What about my job, my life? I have friends, family. You'll call in sick tomorrow. Family emergency. After a week, you'll resign. Apologize. Blame stress. His eyes held hers. Your friends will receive carefully worded messages about needing space. Your family will hear you're dealing with personal issues. It's not ideal, but it's temporary. Emily's vision blurred at the edges. You've thought of everything. That's my job. Controlling people? Protecting assets. He paused. Right now, Emily, you're an asset that needs protecting. From others and from yourself. She slammed her glass down hard enough that wine sloshed over the rim. I'm not an asset. I'm a person. A person whose only crime was sending a text message to the wrong number. And that crime bought you a death sentence. Lucien's voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. I'm offering you a reprieve. You don't have to like it. You don't have to like me. But you do have to cooperate. Or what? Or I can't help you. He stood, walked to the frosted glass panels, stared out at shadows moving beyond. There are limits to my reach, Emily. Boundaries I won't cross even for strangers who stumble into my world. If you refuse this arrangement, I'll have my men take you somewhere public. A hospital maybe, a bus station, somewhere with cameras and witnesses. You'll have 12 hours head start before word gets out. After that, he turned to face her. You're on your own. Emily's hands shook. She pressed them flat against the table to hide it. Why are you doing this at all? Why not just let them have me? I'm nobody. A problem you didn't ask for. Something flickered across Lucien's face. Emotion, maybe, or memory, gone too fast to name. Because I remember what it's like to be nobody, he said quietly. And because the day I stop protecting innocent people from the consequences of my world is the day I become what everyone already thinks I am. The honesty of it hit Emily harder than any threat could. She drank more wine, let the burn settle into her bones, tried to think through the fog of fear and exhaustion and sheer absurdity. If I do this, she started, when you do this, when? The word tasted like surrender. What exactly do I have to do? Lucien returned to his seat. We'll start tomorrow. I'll have my people retrieve essentials from your apartment, clothes, documents, anything you need. You'll move into the guest wing of my residence, separate quarters, separate lives, except when necessary. When's necessary? Dinners twice a week at public establishments, 2 to 3 events per month. Gallery openings, charity functions, anywhere my presence is expected and noted. He ticked them off like items on a shopping list. Physical contact will be minimal but visible. Hand-holding, casual touches. Nothing explicit. You've done this before. It wasn't a question. Something in the way he listed requirements spoke of practice. I've managed perceptions before, he said carefully. This isn't entirely unprecedented. Emily's stomach twisted. And after 3 months? When this is over? We'll stage a quiet separation. No drama, no scandal. Just 2 people who tried and realized it wasn't working. You'll receive a financial settlement. Enough to relocate if you want. Start fresh somewhere else. Hush money. Security. His eyes held hers. Because even after this ends, Emily, there will be people who remember you were connected to me. The settlement ensures you have options, protection, a chance at the normal life you had before tonight. She wanted to argue, wanted to find holes in his logic, but exhaustion was setting in, the kind that made thinking feel like pushing through concrete. I need to know something, she said. Ask. Are you... She searched for the right words. Are you what people say you are? A criminal? A killer? Lucien was quiet for a long moment. The candlelight carved shadows across his face that made him look older, tired, human. Yes, he finally said. I'm exactly what people say I am, and worse than most of them imagine. The honesty should have terrified her. Instead, it felt almost like relief. At least he wasn't lying. Then why should I trust you won't kill me when this is over? Because dead you creates more problems than alive you solves. He leaned back in his chair. And because despite what you might think, I don't enjoy violence for its own sake. It's a tool, one I use when necessary. You're not necessary to hurt. Comforting. It's the truth, which is more than most people in my position would offer. Emily stared at her wine glass, at her reflection distorted in red liquid. 24 hours ago, her biggest problem had been Marcus's infidelity. Now she was sitting across from a man who'd just casually admitted to being a killer, discussing fake relationships and witness protection disguised as romance. The laugh that escaped her throat sounded broken. Something funny? Lucien asked. All of it. None of it. I don't know anymore. She met his eyes. This morning I was worried about a performance review at work. Now I'm negotiating the terms of my survival with a stranger who commands an army. The world changes fast. Too fast. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out. Marcus again. Seriously, Em, where the fuck are you? I went by your apartment and you're not there. Call me. He went to my apartment, Emily whispered. Lucien's expression darkened. When? She checked the timestamp. 20 minutes ago. Did he go inside? I don't know. He just says I'm not there. Her hands tightened on the phone. What if he's still there? What if... Give me the phone. What? Your phone. Now. Something in his voice made her hand it over without thinking. Lucien scrolled through the messages with quick efficiency, his jaw tightening with each screen. Marcus Brennan. Works in finance. Lives in Williamsburg. He looked up. This your ex? How do you... It's all in his texts, the details people reveal without realizing. He kept scrolling. He sent you 37 messages since you left your apartment, each one more desperate than the last. The man's either very concerned or very guilty. Guilty, definitely guilty. Good. That we can use. Lucien started typing. What are you doing? Solving one problem while managing another. His thumbs moved fast across the screen. Your ex needs an explanation for your absence, one that deflects his attention without revealing too much. You can't just... He handed back the phone. Emily read what he'd written. Need space. Don't contact me for a while. This isn't about tonight. This is about everything. I'll reach out when I'm ready. Simple. Clean. Enough truth to be believable. Enough vagueness to shut down questions. Send it, Lucien said. He won't believe. He'll believe what serves him. Right now, guilt makes him receptive to explanations that require distance. Lucien leaned forward. Send it before he does something stupid like filing a missing persons report. Emily's thumb hovered over the send button. This felt like severing something, a final cut between her old life and whatever came next. She pressed send. The message disappeared into the void. Marcus responded immediately. Em, please talk to me. I fucked up, but we can fix this. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Just tell me you're okay. Emily's chest felt tight. For all his faults, Marcus was still human, still someone who'd shared 3 years of her life. Didn't he deserve more than a cold text? Don't respond, Lucien said, reading her expression. Let him worry. Let him spiral. It reinforces the distance. That's cruel. That's kind. Trust me. His voice softened a fraction. The alternative is him investigating your disappearance and getting himself killed in the process. This way, he spends a few weeks feeling guilty, eventually moves on and stays alive. Everyone wins. Emily set the phone face down on the table. You have an answer for everything. I've been doing this a long time. How long? Lucien's expression closed off. Long enough. A door opened beyond the frosted glass. Heavy footsteps. One of the suited men appeared in the doorway. Boss, we have a situation? The temperature in the room dropped 5 degrees. Lucien's entire demeanor shifted from conversation mode to something else, something that made Emily's survival instincts scream. Where? East River Park. Volkov's people found Petey. Found or followed? Both. The man's face stayed neutral, but Emily caught the tension in his shoulders. They're asking questions. About the number. About a girl. Lucien stood slowly. How many? 4 visible, probably more in reserve. And Petey? Still breathing, for now. Emily watched the exchange, trying to parse meaning from fragments. Volkov. The name Lucien had mentioned earlier. One of the crews hunting for her. "Give me 5 minutes," Lucien said. The man nodded and disappeared back through the door. Lucien turned to Emily. "Stay here. Don't move. Don't open that door for anyone except me." "What's happening?" "Complications." He walked to a panel on the wall, pressed something that made a section slide open, revealing a sleek black case. He pulled out a gun, checked it with practiced efficiency. "The people I mentioned earlier, they're getting aggressive faster than anticipated." Emily's blood turned to ice. "Is someone coming here?" "No, this place is secure, but I need to handle something before it handles us." He tucked the gun into a shoulder holster she hadn't noticed before. "There's food in the kitchen if you're hungry. Bathroom through that door. My men are stationed outside. You're safe here." "Safe? You keep using that word while pulling out guns." Lucien paused at the door. "You want honesty? You're safer here in the next 30 minutes than you'd be anywhere else in this city. The men outside would die before letting someone reach you, not because they like you, because I told them to protect you. And my word is law in this building." "How comforting." "It should be." He opened the door. "Don't leave this room, Emily, not for any reason. Not if you hear shouting, not if you hear gunfire. You stay here until I come back. And if you don't come back?" He smiled for the first time since they'd met. It didn't reach his eyes. "Then Carlo will take you to a secondary location, and we'll have much bigger problems than your wrong number text." The door closed behind him. Emily sat alone in the private dining room with half-finished wine and the metallic taste of fear in her mouth. She counted her heartbeats, counted the seconds, counted the candles burning on tables meant for people living normal lives. Somewhere in the building, men moved with purpose. She heard muffled voices, doors opening and closing, the building settling into whatever routine came after the boss left with a gun. Emily pulled out her phone. No new messages from Marcus, no missed calls, nothing from the life she'd left behind. She opened her contacts, scrolled through names, friends she'd made plans with for next week, her sister in Boston, her mom in Florida, all of them existing in a world that felt light years away now. Her finger hovered over her sister's contact. What would she even say? "Hey Sarah, weird night. Got accidentally tangled up with the mob. Probably going to be fake dating a crime lord for a few months. How's grad school?" She locked the phone. The wine decanter sat half empty on the table. Emily poured another glass, then another. Let the alcohol blur the edges of panic. Time moved strange. Could have been 20 minutes, could have been 2 hours. The candles burned lower. Her thoughts spiraled in loops that led nowhere good. The door opened. Emily's head snapped up, expecting Lucien. A woman stood in the doorway instead. Late 50s, maybe. Silver hair pulled into a tight bun, wearing a simple black dress, an expression of someone who'd seen everything twice. "You must be Emily," the woman said. Her accent was faint, Italian probably. "I'm Gina. I manage Mr. Moretti's household." Emily blinked. "I wasn't expecting to—" "No one ever is." Gina walked in carrying a leather bag. "Mr. Moretti called ahead, asked me to get you settled while he handles business." She set the bag on the table. "I brought basics, toiletries, sleepwear, something clean for tomorrow. We'll get proper clothes once we know your size." "I don't understand." "You're staying at the residence tonight. That means you need things." Gina said it like this was routine, like scared women showing up in the middle of the night was just Tuesday. "The guest wing is ready, fresh linens, private bathroom, everything you need." Emily's head spun. How many people know about this? About me? Enough. Gina pulled out a bottle of water from the bag. "Drink this. You look dehydrated." "I'm fine." "You're drunk and terrified. Drink the water." The command in her voice reminded Emily of Lucien, that same absolute certainty that compliance was the only option. She drank the water. Gina sat down across from her. "This must be overwhelming." "That's one word for it." Mr. Moretti explained the situation. "You have my sympathy and my discretion." Emily laughed bitterly. "Does this happen often? Wrong numbers turning into witness protection?" "No. But complications happen. Mr. Moretti handles them." Gina folded her hands on the table. "He's a good man, despite what you might think. What he might have told you." He told me he's a killer. He's many things. Killer is one of them. Gina's expression didn't change. But he's also someone who keeps his word. If he said he'll protect you, he will, with his life if necessary. Why? He doesn't know me, because that's who he is when cameras aren't watching. Gina stood. Now come, you need rest. Tomorrow will be difficult enough without exhaustion. Emily followed her through the restaurant into a private corridor she hadn't noticed before. Recessed lighting, thick carpet that swallowed sound, doors that probably led to offices or storage or places she didn't want to know about. They exited into an underground garage. More SUVs, more men in suits, a whole infrastructure operating beneath the surface of normal life. Gina led her to one of the vehicles. We'll take you to the residence now. 20-minute drive. Where's Lucien? Handling the situation. He'll join you later. Is he safe? Gina's smile was knowing. Already worried about him? That's faster than usual. I'm not worried. I just... Relax, dear. Mr. Moretti has survived worse than Anton Volkov's posturing. He'll be fine. Yes. They drove through city streets gone quiet with late-night emptiness. Emily watched the world slide past tinted windows, watched people stumbling home from bars, delivery drivers making last rounds, the city's night shift keeping the machine running, all of them oblivious to the woman in the SUV whose life had shattered like dropped glass. The residence turned out to be a brownstone in the West Village, elegant, discreet, the kind of building that whispered old money and older secrets. Gina used a keycard on the front door, led Emily through a foyer with marble floors and artwork that probably cost more than Emily would earn in 10 years, up a curved staircase to the second floor. Guest wing is here. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Take whichever room suits you. Gina handed her the leather bag. Mr. Moretti's quarters are on the 3rd floor, off limits unless invited. I wasn't planning, just establishing boundaries. Makes things simpler. Gina walked to the nearest bedroom and opened the door. This one has the best light in the morning. I recommend it. The room was beautiful. Hardwood floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a private garden, a bed that looked like sleeping on clouds. Emily walked in feeling disconnected from her own body. This wasn't real. Couldn't be real. Try to sleep, Gina said from the doorway. I know it seems impossible, but you'll need your strength. For what? For tomorrow. When this stops being abstract and becomes your life. She started to leave, then paused. One more thing, Emily. Mr. Moretti's world is dangerous, unpredictable, violent, but it's governed by rules. Follow those rules and you'll be fine. Break them. She didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. The door closed with a soft click. Emily stood in the center of the beautiful room in borrowed clothes with a phone full of messages she couldn't answer and a future that had been decided for her by strangers with guns. She walked to the window, looked out at the garden below, peaceful, quiet, a carefully maintained illusion of normalcy. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Emily's heart stopped. She almost didn't answer, almost threw the phone across the room, but something made her thumb hit accept. Hello? Heavy breathing, background noise that sounded like wind or traffic or both. Emily Vale. Not a question, a statement. Male voice? Unfamiliar. Accent that might have been Russian. We know where you are. The line went dead. Emily's phone slipped from her fingers and hit the hardwood with a crack that sounded like breaking worlds. She stood frozen, staring at her fractured screen, while somewhere in the house an alarm started screaming and men with guns began running toward her room, and the beautiful illusion of safety shattered like every other illusion that night. The door burst open. Not Gina. Not one of the suited guards. Lucien, blood on his knuckles and murder in his eyes, gun drawn and pointed at the empty hallway behind him as he scanned the room for threats that weren't there. His gaze locked on Emily standing by the window, phone at her feet, face drained of color. What happened? She couldn't speak, couldn't move, could only stare at this man who'd promised protection while reality kept proving promises were just expensive lies. Lucien crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbed her shoulders. Emily, what happened? They called. Her voice sounded distant, broken. Someone called and said they know where I am. His expression went cold as winter. Show me the phone. She pointed at the floor. the cracked screen still glowing with the recent call log. Unknown number, 22 seconds. Lucien picked it up, looked at the number. Something in his face shifted from cold to something worse. Get your things. What? Now. The word cracked like a whip. We're moving. This location is compromised. But you said I was wrong. He grabbed the leather bag Gina had left, threw it at Emily. Guest wing is compromised. They tracked your phone somehow. We have 90 seconds before... Gunfire erupted from somewhere in the house. Not movie gunfire. Real. Close. The sound of glass shattering and men shouting and Emily's heart trying to hammer through her ribs. Lucien shoved her toward the door. Move. Now. Down the back stairs. Carlo's waiting. I don't... Move. She moved. They ran through corridors suddenly filled with chaos. Men in tactical gear flooding in from somewhere. Lucien's guards returning fire. The beautiful brownstone transforming into a war zone in seconds. Down a back staircase Emily hadn't known existed. Through a kitchen where Gina stood calmly by the counter with her own gun drawn like she'd done this 1,000 times before. Service exit, Gina said, not even looking at them. Go. I'll hold here. Lucien didn't argue. Just pushed Emily through a door that led to an alley where one of the black SUVs waited with engine running. Carlo at the wheel. Same man from the restaurant, expression grim. They hit the perimeter 3 minutes ago, Carlo said as Lucien shoved Emily into the back seat and climbed in after her. 4 teams, professional. Someone leaked the location. Drive. The SUV launched forward before the door finished closing. Emily slammed into Lucien's side as they took a corner too fast. Tires screamed. The vehicle tilted at an angle that physics shouldn't allow. There's a tail, Carlo said. Lucien looked back. Through the rear window, Emily could see headlights, multiple vehicles, gaining. How many? 3 visible, black sedans, no plates. Volkov's? Or DeLuca's? Does it matter? Lucien pulled his gun, checked it again. Take the highway. We'll lose them in Jersey. What about the girl? She stays with me. Emily wanted to scream, wanted to demand explanations. Wanted to go back 12 hours and never touch her phone, but all that came out was a whisper. I'm sorry. Lucien looked at her, blood on his knuckles, death in his eyes, but his voice when he spoke was almost gentle. Don't apologize. You didn't ask for this. Neither did you. No. But I'm better equipped to handle it. He moved to the far side of the seat, giving her space even as the world exploded around them. Stay low. This is going to get worse before it gets better. The SUV hit the highway doing 90. Behind them, the city lights blurred into streaks. The sedans followed like sharks, sensing blood in water. And Emily Vale realized with crystalline certainty that there was no going back now. No normal life waiting at the end of temporary arrangements. No 3-month deal that ended with a settlement and fresh start. Whatever she'd stumbled into by texting the wrong number had teeth. And those teeth were closing around her throat with every mile they drove deeper into Lucien Moretti's war. The first bullet hit their rear windshield 12 seconds later, and Emily's scream was swallowed by the sound of breaking glass, and Carlo cursing in Italian, and Lucien's hand gripping hers so hard she felt bones grind together. Stay down, he said. Then he rolled down his window, leaned out with gun raised, and fired back at the darkness chasing them, while the highway blurred beneath the wheels, and every second felt like the last second Emily Vale would ever know. The bullet had punched through the rear windshield and buried itself in the headrest 6 inches from Emily's skull. She could see the entry hole. Clean, precise. A reminder that death was measured in inches tonight. Lucien fired 3 more shots into the darkness behind them. Each report made Emily's ears ring, made her teeth ache, made reality feel thin as paper. Carlo, take the next exit, Lucien shouted over the wind screaming through broken glass. That's industrial. Dead ends. Good. I want them bottlenecked. Emily pressed herself against the leather seat, hands over her ears, trying to make herself smaller, invisible. Somewhere in the chaos, her mind had fractured into observer mode. She watched herself shaking, watched her own terror like it belonged to someone else. The SUV swerved hard right. Tires screamed. Emily's body slammed into the door despite the seatbelt. Carlo took the exit ramp at 70, the vehicle tilting so far she could see streetlights through the driver's side window. Behind them, the three sedans followed. Closer now. Close enough she could see silhouettes inside. Men with guns. Men hunting. "How much ammo you got?" Carlo asked. "Enough." Lucien ejected his magazine, checked it, slammed it back home. "They're driving DeLuca's vehicles. This isn't Volkov." "You sure?" "Black sedans, no plates, professional pursuit pattern. That's Matteo's signature." "Then we're fucked. Volkov we could negotiate with. DeLuca wants you dead." "I'm aware." The exit dumped them onto a service road lined with warehouses and chain-link fencing. Streetlights few and far between. Shadows deep enough to hide anything. Carlo killed the headlights. They drove by ambient glow alone, the SUV's engine the only sound besides wind through broken windows and Emily's ragged breathing. "What are you doing?" Emily whispered. "Making them choose between caution and aggression," Lucien said. He'd pulled back inside but kept his gun ready. "They either slow down and risk losing us, or maintain speed and risk an ambush." "What if they maintain speed? Then we find out how good Carlo is at tactical driving." "I'm fucking excellent at tactical driving," Carlo muttered. The sedans behind them split up. One continued straight. Two peeled off onto parallel streets. Trying to flank them, box them in. "Smart," Lucien said. "They're coordinating. That means radio communication and someone running the operation from off-site." "Victor?" Carlo asked. "Has to be. Only person who knows all my safe houses." Emily's brain caught on the name. "Who's Victor?" "Later. Right now we need to—" One of the sedans came from nowhere, slammed into their passenger side like a battering ram. Metal shrieked. Emily's world became a carnival ride spinning wrong. The SUV fishtailed, Carlo fighting the wheel, centrifugal force trying to tear them off the road. They hit a curb, went airborne for half a second, came down hard enough to crack teeth. "Everyone intact?" Lucien's voice stayed level despite the chaos. "Define intact," Emily managed. "Breathing counts." The sedan that hit them had fallen back. But now all three converged from different angles. Predators coordinating for the kill. Carlo accelerated. The SUV's engine roared. They shot forward into an industrial complex full of loading docks and shipping containers stacked like steel mountains. "Dead end in 400 meters, Carlo warned. "I see it." Lucien grabbed Emily's shoulder. "When I say move, you move. No questions, no hesitation. Understand?" She nodded because words felt impossible. "Say it." "I understand." "Good girl." The SUV hit the dead end, doing 60. Carlo spun the wheel hard. They rotated 180 in a cloud of burning rubber and came to rest facing their pursuers. Headlights off, engine idling. The three sedans stopped 50 meters away, formed a semicircle, blocking any escape route. Doors opened. Men got out, 6, 8, 10. She lost count. All of them armed, all of them moving with the synchronized efficiency of trained killers. "Carlo," Lucien said quietly. "When this starts, you get her to the river. Boats docked at Pier 17, keys under the console. You remember the route?" "Boss, I'm not leaving you." "That's an order." Lucien's voice carried weight that allowed no argument. "You get her out. Get her to the safe house in Connecticut. Lock it down. Wait for my call." "And if the call doesn't come?" Lucien didn't answer, just checked his gun one more time and opened his door. "What are you doing?" Emily grabbed his arm. "You can't go out there." "I can't let them come in here." He looked at her with something that might have been regret. "Stay down. Stay quiet. Let Carlo handle the exit." "Lucien," but he was already gone, stepping out into the killing zone like a man walking into Sunday Mass, calm, collected, gun hanging loose at his side. Emily watched through the shattered rear window as Lucien stood alone facing 10 armed men. One of them stepped forward, tall, lean, expensive suit. Even in the dim light, she could see his smile. "Lucien Moretti." The man's voice carried across the distance. "Been a while." "Matteo." Lucien's tone was conversational. "Didn't expect you to handle this personally." "When it comes to ending your empire, I like to be hands-on." Matteo gestured at the men surrounding them. "You're outgunned, outmanned, out of options. Do us both a favor and make this quick. You know I can't do that. Loyalty to a stranger? That's not like you. Times change. Apparently so. Mateo's smile widened. The girl, Emily Vale, marketing coordinator, 28 years old, broke up with her boyfriend tonight and sent an angry text to the wrong number. Quite the cosmic joke. Emily's blood went cold. He knew everything, every detail. How long you been planning this? Lucien asked. 6 months, ever since Victor approached me with an interesting proposition. The name hit Emily like a physical blow. She saw Lucien's shoulders tighten, saw the betrayal register even from 50 meters away. Victor's working with you. Working for me. Mateo pulled out a cigarette, lit it with casual arrogance. Turns out your trusted advisor got tired of playing second fiddle. Wanted his own empire. I offered him one. All he had to do was give me yours. And Emily? Happy accident. Victor's been monitoring your communications for months. When that text came through tonight, he saw an opportunity, planted enough breadcrumbs to make it look like a security breach, got everyone's attention. Then he called me. Mateo took a drag. We staged the whole thing, the crew's hunting for her, the threats, even the attack on your brownstone. All theater designed to push you exactly where we wanted you. Emily couldn't breathe, couldn't think. This whole night had been manufactured, designed. She wasn't collateral damage. She was bait. Where is he? Lucien's voice stayed calm, but Emily heard the rage underneath. Molten, contained only through sheer will. Somewhere safe, counting his money, planning his next move. Mateo dropped the cigarette, grounded under his heel. You always said sentiment was weakness, Lucien. Looks like you were right. This won't end the way you think. Really? Because from where I'm standing, it's already over. Mateo raised his hand. Last chance. Give us the girl. Walk away. Live to fight another day. You know I can't do that. Then you die here in a shipping yard like a dog. Lucien raised his gun. 10 men raised theirs. The world held its breath. Then Carlo's voice cut through the tension. Boss, we got more company. Emily looked where he was pointing. More headlights approaching from the opposite direction. Different vehicles. SUVs like the one they were in. 4, 5, 6 of them. Mateo's confidence flickered. What the hell? The new arrivals stopped. Doors opened. Men poured out. Not Mateo's men, someone else's. And at the front of the group walked a woman in a long coat who moved like she owned every molecule of air around her. Even from a distance, Emily could see she was beautiful, terrifying, both. Natasha Volkov, Carlo breathed. Oh, we're so fucked. Natasha walked into the no man's land between the two groups, blonde hair pulled back, heels clicking on asphalt, a gun in each hand that she carried like fashion accessories. Gentlemen, she said in accented English, having a party without me? This doesn't concern you, Mateo snapped. When someone uses my family's name to terrorize civilians, it becomes my concern. Her eyes found Lucien. We need to talk. Now's not a good time. I wasn't asking. She turned to Mateo. You've been spreading rumors that my brother's organization is hunting Emily Vale, making it look like we're starting a war with the Morettis. Why? I don't know what you're... Natasha shot him. Not a kill shot, just his leg, clean through the thigh. Mateo screamed and went down. His men started to raise their weapons, but Natasha's people were faster. Suddenly, 20 guns pointed at 10, and the math was simple. I'll ask again, Natasha said. Why are you using my family's name? Mateo clutched his leg, blood seeping through his fingers. Fuck you. Wrong answer. She shot his other leg. Emily turned away, pressed her face against the seat back. The sounds of Mateo screaming would haunt her forever. Stop. Lucien's voice. Natasha, enough. He disrespected my family. And you've made your point. Let me handle this. Natasha considered him for a long moment, then lowered her guns. You're lucky I like you, Lucien. One of these days that luck will run out. Today's not that day. No, so... Today, I'm feeling generous. She gestured at Mateo writhing on the ground. Take him, question him, find out who else is involved in this mess. But Lucien? Her eyes turned cold as Siberian winter. You owe me. A big favor, the kind that doesn't expire. Understood. Natasha walked back to her SUVs. Her men followed like a receding tide. Within 60 seconds, they were gone, vanished into the industrial maze like they'd never existed. Lucien walked to Matteo, stood over him, gun pointed at his head. Victor's location, now. Go to hell. Lucien shot the ground 6 inches from Matteo's head. I don't have time for bravado. Your operation is finished. Your men are outgunned. You're bleeding out in a shipping yard. Give me Victor or die here in the next 10 seconds. Matteo's face twisted with pain and rage and the realization that he'd already lost. The masquerade gala, tomorrow night, the charity event at your estate. Emily's blood froze. Victor's going to be at my estate? Victor's been planning this for 6 months. You think he'd miss the finale? Matteo laughed through the pain. The gala is where it ends, one way or another. Lucien's finger tightened on the trigger. Boss. Carlo's voice from the SUV. Police sirens. We need to move. Lucien looked up, looked at Emily watching from the back seat, looked at Matteo bleeding at his feet. He lowered the gun. Let him bleed. Police can have what's left. They got back in the SUV. Carlo drove them away from the chaos, away from the screaming, away from the industrial complex that almost became Emily's grave. They drove in silence for 20 minutes. The city gave way to suburbs. Suburbs gave way to highway. Highway gave way to darkness. Emily stared at her hands. They were shaking. Had been shaking for hours. She wasn't sure they'd ever stop. Victor's been with me for 15 years, Lucien finally said. His voice sounded hollow, distant. He helped build everything. Trusted him with things I didn't trust anyone else with. I'm sorry, Emily whispered. For what? You didn't betray me. I'm the reason this happened. The reason... No. Lucien turned to look at her, blood on his face, exhaustion in his eyes. Victor's been planning this for months. You were just the catalyst. If it wasn't you, it would have been something else. He looked back at the road. He was always going to do this. I just didn't want to see it. Carlo took an exit. They wound through back roads to a property hidden behind gates and trees. A cottage. Small. Isolated. Nothing like the brownstone. Safe house, Carlo explained. Off the books. Nobody knows about it except us 3. They went inside. Carlo swept the rooms with his gun while Lucien secured the doors. Emily stood in the small living room feeling disconnected from reality. Everything that had happened felt impossible. Victor's betrayal, Matteo's ambush, Natasha Volkov appearing like something from a crime novel, the gala tomorrow where it would all end, one way or another. You need to leave, she said. Lucien was checking windows. What? Leave. Get out of the city. Don't go to the gala. It's a trap. Obviously. Then why would you go? He turned to face her. Because Victor will be there, and I need answers. Answers aren't worth dying for. Some are. His jaw tightened. He didn't just betray me, Emily. He's been feeding information to my enemies for months. Every move I made, every plan I had, every person I trusted. His hands clenched into fists. How many people died because of his betrayal? How many operations failed? How much blood is on his hands? That's not your responsibility. Yes, it is. He walked to where she stood, close enough she could see the cuts on his face from broken glass. This is my world, my empire, my people. When someone betrays that, I don't run. I fix it. By walking into an ambush? By ending the threat permanently. Emily wanted to argue, wanted to shake him, wanted to scream that revenge wasn't worth his life. But she saw it in his eyes, the decision already made, the path already chosen. What about me? She asked quietly. You stay here with Carlo, locked down, safe. For how long? Until I come back? And if you don't? Lucien's expression softened. Then Carlo takes you to Canada. New identity, new life, far away from this mess. I don't want a new life. I want my old life back. That's gone. You know that. Emily did know that. Had known it since the first bullet shattered their rear windshield. Had known it since Victor's name fell from Matteo's lips. Had known it since she sent that text message to the wrong number and set this whole nightmare in motion. Her old life was dead. The woman who'd worried about performance reviews and boyfriend infidelity didn't exist anymore. What stood in her place was someone Emily didn't recognize, someone who'd survived car chases and shootouts, someone who understood that safety was an illusion and trust was a weapon. Someone who looked at Lucien Moretti and saw not a monster, but a man trying to protect what little he had left. "Let me come with you," she said. "No. I'm part of this now, part of whatever Victor's planning. If I'm there, you'll be a target." Lucien's voice was firm. "Victor knows about you, has your name, your face, your entire life documented. He'll use you against me. Then use me first. Let me be bait. Real bait this time." "Absolutely not." "Why not? You said it yourself. Sentiment is weakness. I'm a liability, an asset you can't protect while fighting Victor. So use me strategically. Let me draw him out." Lucien stared at her like she'd grown a second head. "You have no idea what you're suggesting." "I know exactly what I'm suggesting, and I know it's insane, but everything about this is insane." Emily stepped closer. "You walked into that shipping yard ready to die for me. A stranger. Someone you've known for 6 hours. Let me return the favor." "This isn't a favor. This is suicide." "Then we're both idiots." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. Or respect. Hard to tell. Carlo cleared his throat from where he'd been checking the perimeter. "Boss, she's not wrong. Victor will expect you to hide her. Won't expect her at the gala." "Carlo, I'm just saying, unexpected moves win wars. Predictable ones get people killed." He holstered his gun. "And she's got balls suggesting it. Gotta respect that." Lucien looked between them. His jaw worked like he was grinding arguments to dust. "You understand what a masquerade gala means?" he finally said to Emily. "Hundreds of guests, politicians, judges, criminal elite hiding behind wealth and influence, all of them watching, all of them dangerous." "I understand." "You understand that Victor's planning something that ends with my death, possibly yours, probably dozens of others caught in the crossfire." "I understand." "You understand that if you walk into that room tomorrow night, there's no walking back out the same person." Emily held his gaze. "Good. Because I don't want to be the same person anymore. That person sent a text message and hid in her apartment crying over a cheating boyfriend. That person was weak, breakable." She felt something harden in her chest. "This person survived tonight. This person is done being a victim." Lucien studied her face like reading a map to somewhere he'd been before. "You'll do exactly what I say. When I say it. No improvisation, no heroics." "Agreed. You stay visible but protected, close to me at all times." "Agreed. And if things go wrong, when things go wrong, you run. Carlo will extract you. No arguments, no looking back." "Agreed." He turned to Carlo. "Get her something appropriate to wear. Gown, jewelry, mask, the full costume." "We going full Phantom of the Opera with this?" "We're going full theater. If Emily's going to be bait, she needs to look like prey worth catching." His eyes found hers again. "Tomorrow night you'll be on my arm in a room full of predators. Every eye will be on you. Every threat will want a piece of you. And somewhere in that crowd, Victor will make his move." "I'm ready." "No, you're not. But you will be." He checked his watch. "We have 18 hours. I'll teach you everything you need to survive the gala. How to walk. How to talk. How to smile while your heart's trying to punch through your ribs." His voice dropped. "How to kill someone if necessary." Emily's breath caught. "What? You think Victor's the only threat tomorrow? There will be others. Opportunists, rivals, people who see weakness and strike. You need to know how to defend yourself." I can't." "You can. You will, because the alternative is death. Yours, mine, or both." Lucien walked to a cabinet in the corner, pulled out a small handgun, brought it to her. "This is a Glock 19, 15 rounds, simple to operate, hard to miss with at close range." Emily stared at the gun like it was a snake. "Take it." Her hand moved on autopilot. The metal felt cold, heavy, wrong. "Tomorrow night you'll carry this, concealed, somewhere easy to reach." He showed her the safety, the magazine release, the trigger. "If someone threatens you and I'm not there to stop them, you aim for center mass and pull the trigger until they stop moving. Understand?" Emily's voice came out as a whisper. I don't think I can. Then think harder, because in 18 hours, you'll be surrounded by people who absolutely can and will. He guided her hands, showed her how to grip, how to aim. The first shot is the hardest. Everything after gets easier. They spent the next hour in that small cottage while Lucien transformed Emily from victim into something else, something harder. He taught her to shoot, taught her to stand, taught her to hide fear behind masks, both literal and metaphorical. Carlo watched from the doorway, smoking a cigarette. "You really think this will work?" he asked during a break. "No idea," Lucien admitted, "but it's better than any alternative I've got. Victor's smart. He'll see through it." "Maybe. Or maybe he's arrogant enough to think I'm not smart too." Lucien reloaded the practice gun. "Either way, tomorrow night we find out who planned better." Emily listened to them talk while checking the weapon's weight in her hands, getting used to it, making it familiar. The sun would be up in a few hours, then the day would pass in final preparations. Then the night would come with its masks and champagne and violence disguised as celebration. Then Victor. Then answers. Then blood. Emily looked at her reflection in a darkened window, saw a stranger holding a gun, saw someone who'd traveled light years from the apartment in Greenpoint where she'd cried over a cheating boyfriend. That Emily was dead. This Emily had learned to shoot. And tomorrow night, in a ballroom full of criminals pretending to be civilized, this Emily would stand as bait in a trap designed to catch a traitor who'd been family for 15 years. "One more thing," Lucien said quietly. Emily turned. "After tomorrow, no matter what happens, you can never go back. Not to your old life, not to who you were." His eyes held hers with uncomfortable intensity. "Even if we survive this, Emily, you'll carry tonight forever. The gunfire, the fear, the weight of that weapon in your hands." He stepped closer. "You sure you want this?" She wasn't sure of anything except that standing still felt like dying slowly. "I'm sure." "Then get some rest. Tomorrow we go to war." Emily lay in a small bedroom while dawn crept through curtains, and Carlo kept watch, and Lucien made phone calls in code to people she'd never meet. She held the gun under her pillow, didn't sleep, just counted heartbeats and waited for the sun to rise on the day that would either end Victor's betrayal or end everything Lucien Moretti had built, including whatever fragile connection had formed between a crime lord and the woman who'd accidentally texted him into her life. The clock ticked toward evening, toward the gala, toward whatever truth waited behind Victor's smile, and 18 hours from now, Emily Vale would walk into a mansion full of killers wearing a designer gown and a loaded gun, and the only question left was whether she'd walk back out at all. The dress arrived at noon in a black garment bag that looked like it cost more than Emily's car. Carlo brought it in without ceremony, set it on the bed like delivering a body bag. Emily stared at it for 5 full minutes before unzipping. Inside was midnight blue silk that moved like water, backless, slid up one thigh, the kind of dress that said wealth and danger in equal measure. Jewelry came with it, diamond earrings that caught light like captured stars, a necklace that probably had its own insurance policy, and a mask, Venetian style, silver filigree, beautiful and anonymous. She tried everything on in the small bathroom. The dress fit perfectly. Someone had guessed her measurements with disturbing accuracy. The jewelry felt heavy, cold, like wearing someone else's skin. The mask changed everything. With it on, Emily Vale disappeared. In her place stood someone else, someone who belonged in Lucien Moretti's world, someone who could pull a trigger if necessary. She practiced in front of the mirror, the walk Lucien had taught her, shoulders back, chin up, eyes forward, predator gait, the kind that said, "Touch me and die." The Glock sat on the bathroom counter, small holster designed to strap to her thigh beneath the dress, invisible until needed. Emily picked it up, checked it like Lucien had shown her, safety on, magazine full. One in the chamber. Her hands didn't shake anymore. That should have scared her. The fact that holding a loaded weapon felt normal now, natural. But fear was a luxury she couldn't afford tonight. A knock on the bathroom door. "It's time," Lucien's voice. Emily took one last look at her reflection, at the stranger in the expensive dress holding a gun like she knew what to do with it. Then she opened the door. Lucien stood in the hallway wearing a tuxedo that probably cost more than some people's mortgages. Black, perfectly tailored. His mask hung loose in one hand, dark features and sharp edges. He looked like violence wrapped in silk. His eyes traveled over her, head to toe. Something flickered in his expression. "You look—" He stopped, started again. "You look dangerous." "Good. That's the point." He held out his arm. Last chance to back out. Emily took it. Not a chance. They walked to the waiting SUV, Carlo at the wheel again. Two more vehicles flanked them. Guards in tactical gear, armed to the teeth. The small convoy looked like a presidential motorcade. "Expecting trouble?" Emily asked as they drove. "Always." Lucien adjusted his cufflinks. "Victor knows I'll be there. Knows I know he'll be there. The question is whether he's arrogant enough to make his move publicly or smart enough to wait." "What do you think?" "I think Victor's been planning this for 6 months. He won't wait. Tonight ends one way or another." The drive took 40 minutes. Out of the safe house, through suburbs, into the kind of neighborhood where houses had names instead of numbers, estates hidden behind gates and walls, and the kind of security that made normal people feel small. Lucien's estate sat at the end of a private road. 3 stories of stone and glass, gardens that probably employed a dozen groundskeepers, the kind of place that appeared in architecture magazines and drug cartel documentaries. Tonight it blazed with light. Cars lined the circular drive, valets in white jackets, guests in evening wear. The wealthy and the criminal and the overlap between them streaming through massive doors into a world where both existed comfortably. "Stay close," Lucien said as their SUV stopped at the entrance. "Don't wander, don't trust anyone. And if shooting starts, you get behind me immediately. Understand?" Emily nodded. They stepped out into camera flashes and murmured conversations. Guests watched them with the kind of interest that felt predatory. Emily felt dozens of eyes tracking her, calculating, wondering who she was, what she meant to Lucien Moretti. Let them wonder. Lucien's hand rested on the small of her back as they walked. Proprietary, protective. Exactly the kind of gesture that would fuel gossip and speculation. The entrance hall took Emily's breath away. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, a double staircase that belonged in palaces. Servers circulated with champagne and canapes. String quartet played somewhere unseen. Everything polished, perfect, civilized. And underneath it all, the current of violence. The tension in shoulders hidden by tuxedos. The weight of guns concealed in evening bags. The eyes behind masks searching for threats. This wasn't a charity gala. This was a summit of predators pretending to be human. "Mr. Moretti." A man in a burgundy mask approached. Older, silver hair, expensive watch. "Wonderful event as always," he... "Senator." Lucien shook his hand. "Glad you could make it. Wouldn't miss it. Though I have to say, security seems tighter than usual. Recent complications. Nothing to worry about." The senator's eyes found Emily. "And who is this lovely creature?" "A guest." "Does she have a name?" "She does, but I'm not sharing it." Lucien's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Enjoy the evening, Senator." They moved deeper into the crowd. Emily recognized faces from news broadcasts. A judge caught up in corruption scandals. A CEO whose company had been investigated for money laundering. A socialite who'd married 3 rich men who all died suspiciously young. The elite. The corrupt. The dangerous. All gathered in Lucien's home, drinking his champagne and pretending they weren't circling each other like sharks. "Do you see him?" Emily whispered. "Not yet. But he's here. I can feel it." They entered the main ballroom. Massive, gold-leaf ceilings. Windows overlooking gardens lit by thousands of tiny lights. A dance floor where couples moved in elaborate choreography. The string quartet had been joined by a small orchestra. Everything beautiful. Everything choreographed. Everything wrong. Lucien's hand tightened on Emily's back. "There." She followed his gaze across the ballroom. A man stood near the far wall talking to someone in a peacock mask. Tall. Late 50s. Distinguished looking in a way that spoke of old money and older sins. Victor Salazar. Even masked, Emily recognized him from Lucien's description. the way he held himself, the confidence of someone who believed he'd already won. "What do we do?" Emily asked. "We dance. We wait. We let him make the first move." Lucien led her onto the dance floor. His hand found hers. His other hand settled on her waist. The orchestra played something classical. Waltz, maybe. Emily didn't know music well enough to tell. She knew fear, though. And as they moved through practice steps Lucien had drilled into her that morning, fear sat in her stomach like broken glass. "Breathe," Lucien murmured. "You're doing fine." "I don't feel fine." "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." His eyes scanned the room over her shoulder. "He's watching us, probably trying to figure out if you're real or a decoy. What if he already knows? Then we find out very soon." They danced past other couples, past servers carrying champagne, past security positioned at strategic points. Emily counted exits, counted threats, counted heartbeats between now and whatever came next. The song ended. Another began. They kept dancing. Victor moved through the crowd like a shark through deep water, slow, deliberate, closing distance. "He's coming," Emily said. "I know. Remember what I taught you. Eyes forward, voice steady. Let me handle the talking." Victor appeared beside them mid-spin, polite smile, friendly mask, death in his eyes. "Lucien, wonderful party." Lucien stopped dancing but kept Emily close. "Victor, I wasn't sure you'd show." "And miss this? Never." Victor's gaze shifted to Emily. "And who is this enchanting young woman?" "No one you need to worry about. Come now. After all our years together, you're keeping secrets?" Victor extended his hand to Emily. "Victor Salazar, Lucien's most trusted advisor." Emily looked at the hand like it was a snake, looked at Lucien, saw the slight nod. She took it. Victor's grip was firm, professional, the handshake of a businessman sealing a deal, but his eyes stayed cold, calculating, taking her measure. "You look familiar," he said. "Have we met?" "I don't think so." Strange. I never forget a face." He released her hand, turned back to Lucien. "We should talk. Privately. There are matters that require your attention. I'm occupied at the moment." "I insist." Victor's smile stayed in place, but his voice hardened. "It's urgent." Lucien studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Emily, wait here with Carlo." Carlo materialized from the crowd like he'd been waiting for his cue. Took position beside Emily as Lucien followed Victor toward a side door. "Don't do anything stupid," Carlo muttered. "Define stupid." "Leaving my sight, talking to strangers, getting killed." "That third one wasn't on my agenda. Keep it that way." Emily watched Lucien and Victor disappear through the door. Every instinct screamed at her to follow, to not let Lucien face his betrayer alone. But she'd promised to follow orders, to trust the plan. So she waited. The ballroom continued its elaborate dance, masks and champagne and laughter that sounded hollow. Emily accepted a glass from a passing server. Didn't drink it, just held it to have something to do with her hands. 5 minutes passed. 10. Carlo's phone buzzed. He checked it. His expression darkened. "What?" Emily asked. "Movement on the north perimeter. 3 vehicles, unknown." "Is that bad?" "Everything unknown is bad." He touched his earpiece. "All units converge on the north entrance. I want eyes on those vehicles now." Around the ballroom, men Emily had mistaken for guests shifted position. Hands moved toward concealed weapons. The security net tightening. Something was happening. The lights went out. Complete darkness. The kind that made people gasp and stumble. The orchestra stopped mid-note. Conversations died. For 3 seconds, the ballroom held its breath. Then emergency lighting kicked in. Red, dim. Enough to see shapes but not faces. And in that crimson half-light, Emily saw them. Men in tactical gear flooding through doors. Not Lucien's men. Different uniforms. Different weapons. Moving with military precision. Screaming started, gaze panicking, running, colliding in the darkness. The civilized veneer shattering like cheap glass. Carlo grabbed Emily's arm. "We need to move, now." "Where's Lucien?" "I'll find him. You need to get to the safe room." I'm not leaving. Gunfire erupted from somewhere deep in the house. Not the controlled shots of people aiming, the sustained burst of people spraying bullets and hoping for hits. The ballroom descended into chaos. Guests screaming, security returning fire, the tactical team advancing through the panic like it was exactly what they'd planned for. Carlo pulled Emily toward the nearest exit. They made it 3 steps before one of the tactical team blocked their path. Assault rifle raised, masked face, cold eyes. Emily Vale, come with us. Carlo's gun appeared in his hand. She's not going anywhere. Then you die here. The tactical soldier raised his rifle. Carlo was faster. 2 shots center mass. The soldier went down in a spray of blood that looked black in the red emergency lighting. Run! Carlo shouted. They ran. Through corridors Emily had never seen, past rooms being torn apart by gunfire, past bodies, past blood spreading across marble floors like spilled wine. Carlo led her through a door into what looked like a library. Floor-to-ceiling books, leather chairs, a fireplace big enough to stand in. He pushed Emily toward a section of wall, pressed something hidden in the molding. The bookshelf swung open, revealing a narrow staircase down. Safe room, bottom of the stairs, reinforced steel. You lock it from inside. Don't open it for anyone except me or Lucien, understand? Where are you going? To find the boss. He pushed her toward the stairs. Go, now. Emily started down, stopped, turned back. Carlo, I know, but someone has to. He smiled, sad and tired. Take care of him if I don't make it back. Then he was gone. Back into the chaos. Emily descended into darkness. The staircase wound down into bedrock. Emergency lights every 10 feet. The sound of gunfire muffled by stone and earth. The safe room at the bottom was exactly what Carlo had described. Steel walls, steel door, airtight seal. Inside was water, food, communications equipment, everything needed to survive a siege. Emily stood in the doorway staring at that steel sanctuary, at the safety it offered, at the choice between survival and stupidity. Lucien was still up there, somewhere in that house being torn apart by Victor's betrayal. Carlo was up there trying to find him, and Emily Vale stood at the threshold of the only smart decision she had left. She looked at the safe room, looked at the stairs leading back up to the gunfire, made her choice. Emily turned away from safety and ran back up the stairs into the chaos because somewhere in that burning house was a man who'd risked everything to protect her. And Turnabout felt like the only fair play left in a world where fairness had died 6 hours ago in a shipping yard. She emerged into the library. It was empty. She could hear fighting deeper in the house, shouting in multiple languages, more gunfire, the tactical team systematically clearing rooms. Emily pulled the Glock from its holster, safety off. Just like Lucien had taught her, the weight felt right in her hands now, familiar, a tool for a job that needed doing. She moved through corridors following the sound of violence, past the ballroom where guests cowered behind overturned tables, past security checkpoints being overrun by superior numbers, past everything civilized burning down to reveal the violence underneath. She found Lucien in what looked like his study, books and papers scattered, furniture overturned, blood on the walls. He knelt in the center of the room, hands zip-tied behind his back, 3 tactical soldiers surrounding him. And standing in front of him, gun pointed at his head, was Victor Salazar. No mask anymore, just naked ambition and 15 years of resentment finally given voice. You never saw it coming, Victor said. All these years, all your paranoia. And you never suspected me. I suspected everyone. Lucien's voice stayed calm despite the gun in his face. I just chose to trust you anyway. Your mistake. One of many, apparently. Victor smiled. You know what the beautiful part is? Even now, with everything falling apart, you're still playing tough, still thinking you'll find a way out. He leaned closer. There is no way out, Lucien. I own your empire now, your contacts, your operations, your legacy. And when I kill you tonight, everyone will remember me as the man who ended the Moretti dynasty. They'll remember you as a traitor. They'll remember me as a winner. History doesn't care about loyalty, only results. Emily stood in the doorway watching this, gun in her hand, choice before her. She could shoot, try to take out Victor before his men killed her, probably fail, definitely die. But maybe give Lucien a chance, Or she could walk away. Let Victor finish this. Survive. Her finger tightened on the trigger. Victor noticed the movement, turned, saw her standing there. His expression shifted from triumph to shock to something worse. Recognition. Emily Vale. He said it like a curse. The girl who started all this with one wrong text message. I wondered if you'd survived the shipping yard. His gun shifted from Lucien to her. Come in. Join us. You're part of the finale after all. Emily stepped into the study, kept her gun raised, kept her voice steady. Let him go, Victor laughed. Or what? You'll shoot me? Please, you're a marketing coordinator who got caught in the crossfire. You've probably never fired a gun outside a range. I fired one tonight, and that shipping yard you mentioned felt easier than I expected. Something flickered across Victor's face. Uncertainty, maybe. The realization that prey might have teeth after all. Put the gun down, Emily. Last chance. Same to you. They stood there, Victor pointing at her, Emily pointing at him. Lucien kneeling between them, bleeding from cuts she couldn't see well in the dim light. The tactical soldiers with their rifles aimed at everyone and no one. Mexican standoff in a study full of books, while the house burned around them. You know what's funny? Victor said conversationally. None of this was supposed to involve you. The text message was just opportunity. Bad luck. But then Lucien did what he always does, got sentimental, tried to protect you. And that weakness gave me exactly the leverage I needed. You're wrong about him, Emily said. Am I? He risked everything for a stranger. Put his entire organization at risk. That's not strength. That's the behavior of a man who's already lost. No. That's the behavior of a man who's still human, something you stopped being a long time ago. Victor's expression hardened. Last warning, put the gun down or I kill him right now. Emily's heart hammered. Her hands sweated. Every survival instinct screamed at her to comply, to surrender, to live. But she'd stopped listening to survival instincts the moment she got in Lucien's car 6 hours ago. No, she said. Victor's finger tightened on the trigger. Time moved like honey. Emily saw it happening, saw the micro-movements that meant death, saw Victor's decision in his eyes. She pulled her trigger first. The Glock kicked in her hands, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. The bullet took Victor high in the shoulder, spun him, bought seconds. Lucien moved. Even zip-tied, he moved like violence incarnate. Swept Victor's legs. Both men went down. The gun skittered across hardwood. The tactical soldiers raised their rifles. Emily shot again. Missed. Shot again. Hit one in the leg. He went down screaming. The other two opened fire. Emily dove behind a desk as bullets chewed through wood and leather and everything she'd been standing behind. Splinters exploded. Books disintegrated. The world became noise and destruction. She counted shots. They'd fired maybe 20 rounds. Had to reload eventually. Had to give her an opening. The shooting stopped. Emily risked a look over the desk. One soldier down, the one she'd hit. The other changing magazines. Victor and Lucien struggling on the floor. Victor had gotten on top. Hands around Lucien's throat, squeezing. Emily ran. Didn't think. Didn't aim. Just closed distance and pressed her gun against the remaining soldier's head and pulled the trigger. His skull came apart. She stumbled back. Bile rising. The reality of what she'd just done trying to tear through the adrenaline. No time for that. She ran to where Lucien and Victor fought. Kicked Victor in the ribs hard enough to break something. He rolled off, gasping, bleeding from the shoulder wound. Emily pointed her gun at his head. Don't, Lucien rasped, his throat bruised, voice damaged. Don't become that. Not for me. He tried to kill you. I know, but Emily, he coughed. If you kill him like this, you'll never stop being the person who did. Trust me. Emily's hands shook. The gun felt heavy. Wrong. The weight of 2 lives already on it, making it heavier. Victor laughed. Bitter, broken. Listen to him, the great Lucien Moretti, preaching mercy while his empire burns. Shut up, Emily said. Or what? You'll shoot me? We both know you won't. You're not a killer. You're just a girl who sent a text message to the wrong number. Maybe. But I'm also the girl who survived your ambush, your betrayal, your bullets. She lowered the gun. And I'm the girl who's going to watch you live long enough to face every consequence of tonight. Sirens wailed in the distance, real ones this time. Police, fire department, the authorities finally arriving to a war zone disguised as a charity gala. Lucien got to his feet, moved to the desk, found something sharp, cut his zip ties, then walked to where Victor lay bleeding. 15 years, Lucien said quietly. We built this together, and you threw it away for what? Ambition? Jealousy? For respect. Victor's voice came out wet, damaged. You never respected me. Always the boss. Always the one making decisions. I was just the advisor, the second, never the first. You were my brother. I was your employee. There's a difference. Lucien looked at him for a long moment. Something passed between them. History, regret, the death of whatever they'd been. Then he turned away. Carlo, he said into the comm unit he'd somehow kept. Status. Static. Then Carlo's voice, weak. North wing secure, multiple casualties. Mateo's dead. Took a round in the throat. Most of Victor's people are down or running. And you? Been better, been worse. A pause. You alive? Somehow. Emily? She's here. She's fine. Course she is. Girl's got bigger balls than both of us. Carlo coughed. We need extraction. Place is swarming with cops. Lucien looked at Emily, at the gun in her hands, at the bodies on the floor, at what she'd become in 6 hours. Can you walk? He asked. Can you? Good enough. They left Victor bleeding in the study, left the bodies, left the burning empire and tactical teams and everything that had seemed important 6 hours ago. In the hallway, Lucien stopped, turned to Emily, pulled her close. Not romantic, just human. Two people who'd survived something impossible, holding on to each other while the world ended around them. Thank you, he whispered into her hair, for not listening, for being insane enough to come back, for... Don't, Emily said. Don't make it more than it was. I just didn't want you to die alone. That's more than most people would do. They found Carlo in the north wing, bleeding from 3 different places, but still standing, still holding his gun, still keeping threats at bay. Took your time, he said. Had complications, Lucien replied. Emily? Still kicking. Then let's get out of here before someone remembers we're wanted for questioning. They escaped through tunnels Emily hadn't known existed, underground passages that led from the estate to a building 3 blocks away. By the time police stormed the main house, they were gone. Ghosts in expensive clothes carrying the weight of tonight on shoulders that would never sit quite right again. They drove through the night, leaving the city, leaving the state, leaving everything behind in a trail of blood and broken promises. Emily sat in the back seat holding a gun she'd killed 2 people with and trying to remember who she'd been 24 hours ago when the biggest problem in her life had been a cheating boyfriend. That girl was dead. This girl had survived a war. And as the miles disappeared beneath them and dawn threatened the horizon, Emily Vale realized with terrible clarity that she'd finally answered the question Lucien had asked in that small cottage. Was she sure she wanted this? Yes, she was sure. Because for the first time in her life, Emily Vale had stopped being a victim and become something else entirely. Something dangerous. Something free. Something that could look at Lucien Moretti across the space between them and see not a monster or a savior, but just another survivor trying to make sense of the aftermath. The SUV drove on while behind them the city burned and ahead of them waited whatever came after. You killed your way out of someone else's betrayal and lived to face the consequences. They drove until the sun came up over Pennsylvania farmland, and the city became a memory bleeding into the rearview mirror. Carlo pulled off at a rest stop that smelled like diesel and burnt coffee. His shirt was soaked through with blood. 3 bullet wounds. Maybe more. He'd stopped counting after the second. Need a hospital, Lucien said. Need to disappear first. Carlo's voice had gone thin, reedy. Hospital means questions. Questions mean police. Police means... I know what it means. Lucien helped him out of the SUV. But you're not dying in a rest stop parking lot because you're too stubborn to get help. Might not be my choice. Emily watched them from the back seat. Watched 2 men who'd survived a war trying to figure out how to survive the aftermath. She felt disconnected, like her body was moving through the world, but her mind was still back in that study, pulling the trigger and watching a man's skull come apart. She'd killed 2 people tonight. That should have destroyed her, should have broken something fundamental. But all she felt was numbness wrapped around a core of something harder, something that refused to crack, no matter how much weight got piled on top. "Emily." Lucien was looking at her through the open door. "You with us?" "Yeah, I'm here. We need to move, get Carlo medical attention, find somewhere safe to regroup." "Where's safe anymore?" "Good question." He pulled out a phone, different from the one he'd been using. Burner, maybe. "I'm calling in a favor. Old friend. Owes me enough that he won't ask questions." "What kind of friend?" "The kind who used to patch up soldiers in Afghanistan before the government declared him surplus." Lucien dialed, waited. "Marcus." "Yeah, it's me. I need a house call." He listened. 3 people, 1 critical, 2 ambulatory. Location. He rattled off coordinates. 1 hour. Bring everything. He ended the call. "He'll meet us at a motel 20 miles west. Off the grid. Cash only. No cameras." They drove. Carlo's breathing got worse. Shallow. Wet. The kind of breathing that said lungs were filling with things lungs shouldn't contain. "Stay with me," Lucien kept saying. 20 minutes. You can make 20 minutes. "Been making 20 minutes my whole life." Carlo tried to laugh, coughed blood instead. "This time might be different, though." "Shut up. You're not dying." "Boss, if I do..." "You're not." "If I do," Carlo continued like Lucien hadn't spoken, "you take care of the girl. She saved your life tonight. That's worth something." "It's worth everything." Emily listened to them from the back seat, listened to men facing mortality with the same stubborn defiance they faced everything else. She wanted to tell Carlo he'd be fine, wanted to offer comfort, but lies felt wrong after a night built on brutal honesty. So she stayed quiet and watched Pennsylvania roll past the windows and tried to remember what normal felt like before realizing she'd never know normal again. The motel was exactly what Lucien had described. Off a back road, faded paint, vacancy sign with half the letters dead. The kind of place where people went to disappear and nobody asked why. Lucien paid cash for 2 rooms, helped Carlo into 1. Emily followed carrying bags she didn't remember packing. Inside smelled like old cigarettes and industrial cleaner. 2 beds, 1 bathroom. Curtains that looked like they'd been there since the 70s. Carlo collapsed on the nearest bed. His shirt was more red than white now. His face gray, lips blue, going into shock. "Where's your friend?" Emily asked. 5 minutes out." "He might not have 5 minutes." Lucien was already moving, grabbed towels from the bathroom, pressed them against Carlo's worst wounds, applied pressure that made Carlo scream through clenched teeth. "Stay with me," Lucien said again. Mantra, prayer, demand. "Marcus will be here. He'll fix this. You just have to hold on." "Held on this long. Getting tired, though." "Too bad. You don't get to quit." Emily knelt beside the bed, took Carlo's hand. It felt cold, clammy, the hand of someone whose body was shutting down one system at a time. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for everything tonight, for protecting me, for..." "Don't." Carlo squeezed her hand with strength that shouldn't have been possible. "Don't do the goodbye speech. Makes it too final." "Then don't die." "Wasn't planning on it." A knock on the door, 3 quick raps. Lucien opened it, gun drawn. A man in his 60s stood there carrying a medical bag that looked older than Emily. Weathered face, steady hands, eyes that had seen enough trauma to fill libraries. "Marcus," Lucien said. "Lucien, you look like hell." "Wait till you see the other guy." Marcus stepped inside, assessed Carlo with 1 glance. GSW, multiple sites, significant blood loss. He was already pulling equipment from his bag. IV lines, saline, antibiotics, instruments that belonged in operating rooms, not motel rooms. "Get me hot water, clean towels, and whatever alcohol you can find. Not for drinking, for sterilization." Emily ran, found an ice bucket, filled it with water from the bathroom, turned the temperature as hot as it would go, grabbed every towel the room had, found a bottle of vodka in the SUV's glove compartment, brought everything back to where Marcus had turned the bed into a makeshift operating theater. This is going to hurt, Marcus told Carlo. A lot. I don't have proper anesthesia, just whiskey and willpower. Story of my life. Marcus worked for 2 hours. Extracted bullets, cleaned wounds, stitched tissue that wanted to stay torn. Carlo screamed twice, passed out once, came back fighting and cursing in Italian. Emily watched because looking away felt like cowardice. Watched Marcus's hands move with practiced precision. Watched blood turn towels red. Watched a man get disassembled and reconstructed in a motel room while traffic hummed past on the highway and the world continued like none of this was happening. When Marcus finally stepped back, his hands were shaking. He'll live, probably. Lost a lot of blood. Needs real hospital care, monitoring, but I've done what I can here. Thank you, Lucien said. Don't thank me yet. He's not out of the woods. Infection, internal bleeding, dozen things could still kill him. Marcus packed his equipment. He needs rest, lots of it, and you need to tell me what the hell happened tonight. Can't do that. Can't or won't? Both. Marcus studied him. The news is reporting a terrorist attack, multiple casualties, federal investigation. Your name hasn't come up yet, but it will. I know. What are you going to do? What I always do. Survive. Marcus looked at Emily. And her? She's with me. That's safe? Safer than the alternative. Marcus left with instructions and warnings, and the kind of look that said he knew he'd never see payment for tonight. Knew better than to expect it. Just another debt added to accounts that would never balance. Lucien walked him out. Came back 5 minutes later looking older, exhausted, the weight of tonight finally pressing down. You should rest, Emily said. Should, won't. He sat in a chair by the window, stared out at the parking lot. Too much to process. Victor is in custody by now, if he survived. Either way, his empire's finished. Mine too, probably. He said it matter-of-factly, like discussing weather. Everything I built for 15 years, gone in one night. Because of me. No, because of Victor's choices. Your text message was just the match. He'd been stacking kindling for months. Emily sat on the edge of the other bed. Her dress was ruined. Blood and gunpowder and the residue of violence soaked into expensive silk. She wanted to shower. Wanted to burn these clothes. Wanted to scrub her skin until the memory of tonight washed away. But memory didn't work like that. She'd learned that much tonight. What happens now? She asked. We wait. Carlo stabilizes or doesn't. The investigation concludes or doesn't. My enemies regroup or don't. Lucien pulled his gun, set it on the table beside him. And we figure out what comes after you kill your way out of someone else's war. You think there's an after? Has to be, otherwise tonight was just murder and survival. Needs to mean something more than that. Emily looked at her hands. They'd stopped shaking hours ago. Now they just felt empty. I killed 2 people. I know. Does it get easier? Lucien was quiet for a long time. No, it gets familiar. That's different. I don't want it to be familiar. Then we make sure it isn't. Make sure tonight stays what it was. Necessity, defense, not something we seek out. He looked at her. You saved my life, Emily. Don't let that gift turn into a curse by becoming something you hate. What if I already am? Then we figure that out together. The motel room settled into silence. Carlo's breathing steady now. Drugged, mechanical. The sound of someone held together by stitches and stubborn will. Emily lay down fully clothed, stared at water-stained ceiling tiles, tried to sleep, couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw muzzle flashes, heard gunfire, felt the Glock kicking in her hands. 24 hours ago, she'd been Emily Vale, marketing coordinator. 3-year relationship ending badly. Biggest worry was job security and whether Marcus would apologize. Now she was someone else, someone with blood on her hands, someone who'd looked death in the face and pulled a trigger to make it look away. She didn't know who that person was yet, didn't know if she wanted to know. Around noon, Lucien's phone rang. He answered it, listened. His expression stayed neutral, but Emily saw tension in his shoulders. Understood. Thanks for the warning. He ended the call. That was my lawyer. Federal investigation is focusing on Victor and his connections to the DeLuca family. My involvement is peripheral, for now. That good or bad? means I'm not the primary target, but it also means I'm on borrowed time. Eventually, they'll come asking questions I can't answer without burying myself. So what do? Cooperate. Carefully. Give them enough to satisfy curiosity without revealing everything. He stood, paced, and I dismantle what's left of the organization, the criminal elements, the operations that made me who I was. You're walking away? From that life? Yes. From everything else? He stopped pacing, looked at her. That depends. On what? On whether you want to rebuild too, start over, become something different than what we were. Emily sat up. I don't understand. 24 hours ago, your life was normal. Boring, maybe. Safe, definitely. I took that from you. Not intentionally. But I did. And now you're sitting in a motel room with blood under your fingernails trying to figure out who you are. He sat on the edge of her bed. Close, but not touching. I can give you money. New identity. Fresh start somewhere far from this. You'd be safe. Free. Away from me and everything I represent. Or you stay. Help me build something legitimate. Something that doesn't require guns and violence. Something that means tonight's deaths bought us a chance at being human again. Emily searched his face. Why would you want that? Because in the last 24 hours, you've shown me more courage and loyalty than people I've known for years. Because you could have run a dozen times and didn't. Because he stopped, started again. Because when I thought I was dying in that study, the last thing I saw was you coming back for me. And that meant something, means something. I'm not who you think I am. Neither am I. Maybe that's the point. We get to figure out who we actually are instead of who we had to be. The room settled into quiet. Outside, cars passed. Somewhere a door slammed. Life continuing while they sat in the wreckage of the old one trying to imagine a new one. I need time, Emily finally said, to process, to think, to take all the time you need. But Emily? He stood, walked to the window. Whatever you decide, you're not trapped. Not by me. Not by tonight. You're free. That's the least I owe you. 3 days passed in that motel room. Carlo improved slowly. Color returned to his face. Breathing steadied. On the second day, he sat up and demanded food. By the third, he was complaining about the accommodations. You brought me to a dump, he told Lucien. You're alive, don't complain. Alive in a dump is still a dump. Next time, I'll let you die somewhere nicer. They fell into the rhythm of survivors. Marcus returned twice to check wounds and change dressings. Brought news each time. Victor had survived, was cooperating with authorities, singing about the DeLuca family in exchange for reduced sentences. The estate had been seized, assets frozen, the Moretti empire officially in receivership. You're broke, Marcus said on his third visit. Not the first time, Lucien replied. What will you do? Figure it out. Always do. Emily spent those 3 days thinking, processing, walking the line between who she'd been and who she'd become. She called her sister once, told her she was taking time off, dealing with personal issues, needed space. Sarah wanted details. Emily gave her vague answers that satisfied curiosity without revealing truth. How do you explain killing 2 people to someone whose biggest problem was grad school deadlines? You don't. You just smile through the phone and promise everything's fine and hope the lie sounds convincing. On the 4th day, Emily made her decision. She found Lucien sitting outside their room watching the sunrise. He looked tired, worn down, but somehow lighter than before, like a weight had been lifted even as everything else collapsed. I'm staying, she said. He looked up at her. You sure? No. But I'm sure that running won't fix what tonight broke. And I'm sure that trying to go back to who I was is impossible. So forward seems like the only option left. Forward's harder than it sounds. Good thing I'm tougher than I look. Something passed between them. Not quite a smile. Not quite relief. Just acknowledgement that they'd both survived and were choosing to keep surviving together. 6 months later, Emily stood in an office that smelled like fresh paint and possibility. Moretti Consulting. Legitimate business helping companies navigate complex regulatory environments, using Lucien's knowledge of how criminals operated to help businesses avoid becoming victims. Irony wasn't lost on anyone. The office was modest, small team, 3 employees besides Lucien and Emily. Carlo managed security after recovering enough to walk without wincing. No guns, no violence, just cameras and common sense. Emily ran operations. Turned out surviving a mob war translated well to project management. Who knew? Lucien handled client relations. His reputation preceded him. Half the clients hired them because of his past. Half hired them despite it. All of them paid well enough to keep lights on and demons at bay. It wasn't the empire he'd lost. Wasn't power or wealth or influence, but it was something clean, something that let them sleep at night without checking shadows for threats. Most nights anyway. Emily still had nightmares, still saw muzzle flashes, still heard that soldier's skull coming apart. Therapy helped. Time helped more. But some scars never fully healed. You just learned to live with them. She and Lucien had tried dating. Lasted 3 months before realizing the connection they'd forged in violence didn't quite translate to normal relationship dynamics. They'd ended it amicably, stayed business partners, stayed friends, stayed people who'd survived something impossible together and couldn't quite explain it to anyone else. Emily had her own apartment now. Small place in Queens, normal life, normal problems, normal everything except the locked box under her bed containing a Glock 19 she'd never fired again but couldn't bring herself to dispose of. Just in case. Though in case of what, she wasn't sure anymore. Victor had died in prison, shivved to the throat in the exercise yard. Someone with a grudge. Someone who remembered. The Moretti name still carried weight even without the empire behind it. Lucien had attended the funeral, alone. Came back quiet, sad in a way Emily hadn't seen before. He was my brother once, Lucien had said, before he was my enemy. I keep forgetting which one I'm supposed to mourn. Maybe both, Emily had suggested. Maybe people can be more than one thing. Maybe. A year after that night in the mansion, Emily stood on the sidewalk outside her old apartment building in Greenpoint. The building hadn't changed. Same cracked steps, same flickering streetlight, same windows where Mrs. Chen probably still watched everything. She'd come back once before, 6 months after. Place had been cleaned out. Landlord had rented it to someone else. All her old belongings either thrown out or donated. No forwarding address. Just another tenant who disappeared into the city's churn. Tonight she'd come with something specific in mind. Lucien stood beside her. He'd called earlier. Said he needed to show her something. Wouldn't say what. Just asked her to meet him here. Why are we here? She asked. Because this is where it started. You, me, everything that came after. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a small velvet box. And I wanted to be here for this. Emily's heart stopped. Lucien, relax. It's not what you think. Or maybe it is. I don't know. I'm bad at this. He opened the box. Inside sat a ring. Simple. Silver. No diamonds. No ostentation. Just a band engraved with coordinates. She recognized them. The rest stop in Pennsylvania, where they'd stopped running and started surviving. I'm not proposing, Lucien said. Not in the traditional sense. He struggled for words. You asked me once what happens after. After the violence. After the war. After everything ends. I didn't have an answer then. But I do now. What happens? We build. We survive. We turn the worst night of our lives into the foundation for something better. And we don't do it alone. He took the ring from the box. Held it out. This isn't a marriage proposal, Emily. It's a partnership proposal. An acknowledgement that what we survived together forged something neither of us can walk away from. You're not just my business partner. You're not just my friend. You're the person who came back when everyone else would have run. And that means something. It means everything. Emily stared at the ring, at the coordinates, at this man who'd been a stranger 24 hours into the worst night of her life and become something she still couldn't fully name. What am I supposed to say to that? Whatever feels honest. She took the ring, slipped it on her right hand. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. Lucien planned everything. I'm not in love with you, she said. I know. But I'm not in love with you either. It's complicated. I know that too. And I don't know what this makes us. Partners, friends, survivors, all of it. None of it. We'll figure it out. Emily looked at the building, at the window that had been hers, at the street where SUVs had parked, and her old life had ended. So much had changed. So much had stayed the same. You know, she said, most people ruin their lives with one wrong text message. Lucien smiled, real this time. And we built ours. We did, didn't we? Still are. They stood there as the city hummed around them. Traffic, sirens, the soundtrack of millions of lives being lived in parallel. Emily thought about the woman she'd been, the woman crying in her apartment over a cheating boyfriend, the woman who'd sent an angry message to the wrong number. That woman was dead, had been dead since the moment she'd stepped into Lucien's car. But this woman, this survivor, this person who'd learned to shoot and kill and survive and rebuild, she was alive, more alive than Emily Vale had ever been in 28 years of playing it safe. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For answering that night. For not killing me. For... She gestured at everything. The city. The ring. The year they'd survived. For all of it. Thank you for texting the wrong number. Sounds insane, but I mean it. He looked at her. Everything I lost that night needed to be lost. Everything I gained was worth keeping. They walked back to the car parked down the street. Not an SUV, just a normal sedan. No armor, no armed guards, no convoy. Just two people who'd survived something impossible trying to figure out how to survive the ordinary. Emily drove. Lucien navigated. They argued about directions like normal people, laughed about it like normal people, stopped for coffee like normal people. And for the first time since that night in the mansion, Emily felt something close to normal settle in her chest. Not peace, not quite, but the beginning of it, the possibility of it. She looked at the ring on her finger, at the coordinates marking the moment they'd stopped running and started surviving. Wondered what coordinates would mark the moment they stopped surviving and started living. Wondered if maybe that moment was now. This car, this coffee, this argument about whether to take the highway or back roads. Maybe living wasn't dramatic, wasn't fireworks and declarations and movie moments. Maybe living was just this, showing up, choosing forward, building something from the ashes of everything that burned. They drove through the city as afternoon bled into evening, past her old neighborhood, past the industrial complex where bullets had shattered windshields, past the brownstone that was crime scene tape and federal investigation, past everything they'd been toward everything they might become. Emily's phone buzzed, text from Marcus, her ex. First contact in over a year. Saw you on the news. Something about a business in Queens. You doing okay? She stared at the message. This man who'd been the center of her universe for 3 years. This man whose infidelity had triggered a text message that changed everything. She deleted it without responding. Some chapters closed. Some questions didn't need answering. Some people belonged to versions of yourself that didn't exist anymore. You good? Lucien asked. Yeah, just noise from the past. Want to talk about it? Not even a little bit. He nodded, understood. One of the benefits of surviving violence together was learning when silence said more than words. They drove until the city gave way to suburbs, until suburbs gave way to the small house Lucien had bought with what money he'd salvaged from the empire's collapse. Nothing fancy, just 2 bedrooms and a yard and normalcy wrapped in mortgage payments and property tax. Carlo was waiting on the porch, smoking a cigarette he shouldn't have been smoking given his lung capacity. About time, he called. Thought you two got lost. Just took the scenic route, Emily called back. There's no scenic route, just fast and slow. You chose slow. Sometimes slow is better. Spoken like someone who's never been shot 3 times. They gathered on the porch as evening settled into night. Talked about nothing. Everything. The business. The news. The way the world kept turning whether you were ready or not. Emily listened to them banter. Watched streetlights flicker on. Heard someone's dog barking. Kids playing in a yard somewhere. The sounds of normal life she'd thought she'd lost forever. Turned out forever was shorter than expected, and loss was sometimes just transformation wearing a scary mask. You staying for dinner? Carlo asked her. What are you making? Pasta, like my grandmother taught me, before she disowned me for working for a crime boss. That's heavy dinner conversation. All my dinner conversations are heavy. Come on, I'll tell you about the time Lucien almost got killed by a chicken. There was no chicken. There was definitely a chicken, and you screamed like a child. Emily followed them inside, into warmth and laughter and the smell of garlic and oil and all the domestic things that shouldn't have existed in the aftermath of violence but somehow did anyway. She set the table while Carlo cooked and Lucien opened wine. They ate together like family, like friends, like survivors who'd earned the right to moments like this through sheer stubborn refusal to die. After dinner, Emily stood on the porch watching the street. The ring caught moonlight, coordinates glinting, reminder of where they'd been, promise of where they might go. Lucien joined her, two survivors watching a quiet neighborhood and trying to remember how to be people instead of weapons. "You ever regret it?" he asked. "That text message. Everything after." Emily thought about the question, really thought about it, turned it over in her mind like a stone. "No," she finally said. "I regret the violence, the people who died, the cost. But the text message? That led me here. To this. To becoming someone who doesn't run when things get hard. Someone who fights." She looked at him. "You gave me that. In the worst possible way. But you gave me that. You gave yourself that. I just provided the nightmare to test it. Some test. You passed, though. Barely. Barely still counts." They stood in comfortable silence, the kind only possible between people who'd seen each other at their absolute worst and chosen to stick around anyway. Emily's phone buzzed. Email notification. Job offer from a consulting firm in Boston. Good money. Clean work. Chance to start fresh somewhere new. She deleted it without reading past the subject line. Some opportunities came too late. Some fresh starts weren't fresh at all. Just running with better scenery. She'd done enough running. "I'm staying," she said. "In New York?" "In this. Whatever this is. Business, partnership, weird found family with you and Carlo." She turned to face him. "I'm staying because leaving would feel like betraying the woman who fought her way out of that mansion. And I'm tired of betraying myself." Lucien nodded. "Good. Because the business is growing. We need someone who can handle the operational side. Someone who understands that sometimes the right choice isn't the safe choice. That's a polite way of saying you need someone who's killed people and lived with it." "That too." Emily laughed. Dark. Honest. The kind of laugh that acknowledged horror and survived it anyway. She looked at the ring again, at coordinates marking transformation, at the proof that the worst night of her life had somehow become the beginning of the best version of herself. Strange how that worked. How trauma could break you or forge you depending on which direction you fell. She'd fallen forward. Into violence and survival, and the kind of strength she didn't know she possessed. And now she stood on a porch in a quiet neighborhood with a man who'd been a stranger and become something more important than labels could capture. Not quite lovers, not quite friends, not quite family, just partners. In business, in survival, in the ongoing project of becoming people who could live with what they'd done to stay alive. The street stayed quiet. The night stayed peaceful. And Emily Vale stood in the aftermath of her own resurrection, trying to remember what peace felt like before realizing this was it. This porch, this ring, this choice to stay when leaving would have been easier. This was peace, hard-won, blood-bought, imperfect, but real. And real was all she needed anymore. The city lights glowed on the horizon, distant, beautiful, full of other people living other lives. None of them knowing that a marketing coordinator had accidentally texted a crime lord and become someone else entirely. None of them needing to know. Because some stories were lived quietly. Some transformations happened in shadows. Some wars were fought in mansions and survived in motel rooms and resolved in small houses with pasta dinners and laughter that tasted like freedom. Emily went back inside. Back to Carlo's stories and Lucy's wine and the warmth of choosing to build instead of burn. And as the night settled around that small house in the suburbs, Emily Vale finally understood what Lucien had meant about what comes after. After the violence. After the war. After everything burns. You build. You survive. You turn the worst night into the foundation for something better. And you don't do it alone. You do it with the people who stayed when everyone else ran. With the people who saw you at your worst and chose you anyway. With the people who understand that strength isn't never breaking, it's breaking and choosing to rebuild anyway. Emily looked at the ring on her finger one more time, At coordinates marking the moment, survival became choice. At proof that wrong numbers sometimes led to right places if you were brave enough to follow them. She smiled, real, honest, free. And somewhere in the city she'd almost died in, life continued. Marcus moved on. Her old apartment housed new tenants. The brownstone became someone else's crime scene. But Emily Vale, the woman who'd sent one furious text message and survived everything that came after, she was finally home. Not in a place, in a choice, in the decision to stop running and start living. In the understanding that the most dangerous mistake of her life had become the one thing that finally led her somewhere worth being. She closed the door on the past and walked into the future carrying nothing but coordinates engraved in silver and the hard-won knowledge that sometimes the wrong number is exactly the right call. The end came quietly, the way most real endings do, not with explosions or drama or final confrontations, just with a woman standing in a house full of people who understood her, holding a ring that meant partnership and survival, choosing forward because backward had stopped existing the moment she'd pulled a trigger to save a life. And in that choice, in that moment, Emily Vale finally became who she was always supposed to be. Someone who survived, someone who fought, someone who built something from the ashes of everything that burned, someone free.